Hello and welcome to a short video where I'll take you through some of the processes that you might want to use for a data hygiene exercise. So for example, you might want to path your data, check it for duplicates, check it for home movers or new addresses, and to suppress any deceased and gone away. So first thing we will do is bring in our input file, drag that and drop it onto our process flow, and then double click that and that will open the download module. And we can then bring this file into our job. First thing to notice is that we have a comma delimited file and we have field names as the header record. Now we can remove those from the top of the file by clicking on our field descriptions radio button there, which as you see has moved the field names off the top of the record. We can now click next, which will take us into the record properties section where we apply the field names. So here you can see we've got the original field names, title, forename, surname, address 1 down to address 9 and a URN. But we need to change those. So first of all, we'll change the title to T. As you see, it's color coded, forename to F and surname to S. We'll then change the address line 1 to A1. And then rather than have to type A2, A3, etc., we can use our repeat previous field name button and just apply the rest of the address lines down to address line 9. Having done that, we can click next. We'll then be checking for any spurious or unwanted characters that might be in our data. We're clean of those, that's no problem. We can click next. And we can then move on to the final screen, which is our download properties or processing properties screen, where you can set some various options on or switch them off, of course. But in this case, we'll just leave our default options on and we'll click the run button. So as this process runs, it's importing our data, it's parsing the name and address fields to generate recased name and address fields down the bottom here and our salutation. Plus it's also checking for any poor addresses, any salacious words and that sort of thing. In a moment it will land on the results screen so we can have a look at what we've got. Okay, 5,000 records. It always shows you the extremes, which are shortest name, longest name, shortest address, narrowest, longest, and widest, and a few other bits and pieces such as obscenities. Obviously, there's no issue there, and notable words and phrases such as the word male in here. So, all in all, this file is in reasonably good condition. Not too many suspect addresses, and everything's looking okay. We can close that, go to our file here, and then set up the next process, which is going to be path. Right mouse click, select path, and there you can see the options on the screen. So at the moment we don't have any options selected, which means that if you run this, it will just add a DPS or delivery point suffix. However, we want to do postcode enhancement, so to check for any invalid postcodes and bring them up to date. We want to do address enhancement. We'll select a few options here. Obviously, all of these options can be set on by default. It's just that in my case, they're not. So I've selected the options that we want, and now we can save and we can run our path process. As per download that we saw a moment ago, you can review it as it runs. And you can see on the right hand side the stats of this path run are being updated as it progresses, and we can see here we've got about 31 unmatched records in this file. Looks like the full match rate is around about 83–84%, a little lower than we'd like perhaps, but there we are. Okay, that's about finished and done. And like the download module, we can also go and have a look at some of them. So we can look at those where we've added a postcode. So there's the previous address without a postcode, and there's our path validated address with a postcode added. Okay, so we can now close that. And it might be the case that we want to remove any records where it didn't match against path, so the unmatched. So if we right mouse click here, we can select the splurge module. And in your library, you might have a preset splurge script. In my case, I've got one called path drops. And what that does is if the field $P match, which is the full path match flag, is set to no, and the $P part match is also set to no, which is our partial match flag, then obviously by default, that's a bad record or a path fail. So all we need to do is save, and if you look on the process flow, you can see we've got our two output files, bad and good, and we can then run this process. Okay, very quick, and it's selected off our 175 records that didn't match path. Okay, so let's take our good records. So we've got 4,825 left, and we'll run a dedupe. So right mouse click again and select dedupe. Okay, very simple form. We're going to run an individual level, but you can change that to family or address, of course. And we're going to run it at moderate forename matching, but again, you can select that to be very loose or ultra strict, which is effectively exact match forename matching. But we'll leave it as a default, save, and we'll run that. Okay, very quick, 4,800 records deduped, and as you can see from the results on the process flow, we've found 13 duplicated records. And if you want to have a look at the results, you can go in here and review those matches. So on the left-hand side, we've got the record that we're going to keep, and the right-hand side, the record that we're going to drop, i.e. the duplicate. Okay. So we're now left with 4,799 unique records and 13 that are the selected records from a pair of duplicates. You can see there we've got the 13 duplicate records out on their own. So what we're going to do now is, using our merge button, we're going to draw a little box around those two, i.e. select them, and then put them into our next process, which is going to be a trace. Okay, in the trace module, you have three files available for you. You have Experian contacts, national change of address from Royal Mail, and gas reactive from the Red Group. Of course, you can run all of them at the same time, no problem with that whatsoever, and our recommendation would be indeed to do that, but for expediency reasons, I'm going to just run with NCOA. I'm not going to worry about overseas tracing, i.e. those people that have got a new address overseas, so I'll block those. And because this process can only be used for marketing purposes, I need to check that box to verify that those conditions have been met. I can now save this and run our trace process. Okay, down the bottom you can see it's running against approximately 24 million national change of address records, and the progress is also monitored here up to 25%. So it's running through relatively quickly, and on the right hand side we can see how many hits we've had so far. So 6 or 8 now new addresses found with from our input data against NCOA. Okay, we're about halfway through. Takes about 1.5 to 1 3/4 minutes to run against NCOA. Obviously, if we included Experian contacts and gas reactive, that time would increase. But again, it's very efficient and shouldn't take too long to run. You may have noticed as well that as the progress is going through, it's running through the outbound postcodes, and you can see it's in postcode order, which just makes the matching a little bit more efficient. Okay, so we're up to 90%, and so far we've got about 40 matches. So that process running against approximately 24 million home mover records is going to be done in around about just over 2 minutes. Okay, so that's finished. And again, we can go in and have a look at the results. So the original record is on the right hand side, our NCOA record is on the left hand side, and at the moment the resulting record is obfuscated, but that's obviously just for security reasons, but it will obviously be a genuine record when you check out and output that record. Okay, so there we have the trace module, and as you can see on the process flow, we found 46 people with new addresses. So let's select both of those again, and we'll run it through our next process, which is the suppress module. With the suppress module, you have 4 groups of files to select from. You have our deceased files, you have the mover files, preference files, which in this case is just the mailing preference service, and business to business using the red group's business suppression file. And we also have the option to run a quick dedupe as well in this module, and in fact the trace module as well, which is a slightly, let's say, cruder version of dedupe than the dedupe we ran previously. But we'll turn that off. We've already done our dedupe. As you can see here, I have all of the deceased files switched on, I have all of the mover files switched on, and I have MPS switched on. But I'm going to turn those off, again, purely for demonstration purposes. And with deceased, I'm going to turn them all off, but I'm going to reselect multi-screen. Okay, of course you can run them all at the same time. You can run all the deceased on their own and have another suppress module following that with all of your gonaways, or you can tailor it to choose the files which you want. With deceased though, we do recommend that you use all of them in a live environment. So I've selected multi-screen, and we'll save that, and we'll now run it. As per the trace module we saw a moment ago, you can check the progress, you can monitor it, how it goes through, and multi-screen is about 12 million records, and so obviously this process can take a little bit less time than the NCOA process we watched a moment ago. So we're already 50% through it, and again the hits on the right hand side, so far we're up to about 60 multi-screen matches. So we're approaching 90% complete, over 100 matches now. And there we are. Okay, so to recap, we've imported our data, we've run it through a path process. Using the splurge module, we have used a script to select off path fails, so those records that didn't have a valid match against path. We've run our dedupe process and dropped 13 duplicates. We have found 46 records that have a new or forwarding address. Those records, along with the ones that didn't have a forwarding address, have then been taken into a suppress module where we've run against multi-screen. So there we have a straightforward data hygiene process flow, which can be saved as a template or new data brought in and the path detached from the original data and the new data plugged in for rerunning purposes. If you have any questions, please contact me on 078 999 910 533 or mark.dobson@thesoftwarebureau.com. Thank you for watching.